The Los Angeles sun was just beginning to dip behind the Hollywood hills, casting long shadows across Keanu Reeves' minimalist backyard. Unlike the ostentatious mansions that dotted the neighborhood with their infinity pools and gaudy water features, Keanu's pool was simple but elegant, a rectangular oasis of tranquility, tucked away from prying eyes. Or at least, it was supposed to be. Keanu stood at his kitchen window, a cup of green tea warming his hands as he watched the last rays of sunlight dance across the pool's surface. His home security system had just pinged his phone for the third time that week. The same group of trespassers had returned, apparently convinced that a celebrity's property was fair game for their midnight swims and Instagram photo shoots. "Time to end this," he murmured to himself, setting down his cup. What happened next would leave everyone completely speechless. Jesse Clark considered himself an influencer on the rise. With 50,000 followers and a handful of minor sponsorship deals, he was convinced that all he needed was that one viral moment to catapult him into true fame. His girlfriend Mia and their friends Tyler and Amber shared his conviction, which is why they'd been sneaking into celebrity pools across Los Angeles for their newest content series, Midnight Dips with the Stars. "Dude, I'm telling you, this pool belongs to Keanu Reeves," Tyler whispered as they scaled the surprisingly modest fence for the third time that week. "My cousin's friend works for the real estate company that sold it to him." "Who cares whose pool it is?" Jesse replied, already setting up his ring light. "The last video got 200,000 views. This place has the perfect backdrop for the sunset shot." Amber giggled nervously. "I still think this is crazy. We could get arrested." "Celebrities never press charges," Mia assured her, checking her reflection in her phone camera. "They don't want the bad publicity. Besides, we're not stealing anything, just borrowing some water and vibes." None of them noticed the security cameras discreetly mounted in the trees, or the fact that the pool lights had just automatically switched on despite no one activating them. The plan. Keanu wasn't angry. Not exactly. After decades in Hollywood, he'd become accustomed to the occasional invasion of privacy. But there was something particularly grating about these kids treating his home like a public amenity, especially when he'd chosen this property specifically for its seclusion. He'd reviewed the security footage with a mixture of amusement and concern. They were young, mid-20s at most, and clearly doing it for social media clout. The police seemed an excessive response, especially given his reluctance to participate in the criminal justice system for something relatively harmless. But the behavior needed to stop before someone got hurt or before they targeted someone less forgiving than himself. That's when John, his longtime friend and stunt coordinator, had suggested an alternative approach. "Teach them a lesson they'll never forget," John had said over the phone, "but do it the Keanu way." The Keanu way. That meant no anger, no vengeance, just a profound lesson in respecting others and their boundaries. A lesson delivered with such gentleness that it would cut deeper than any punishment. Keanu picked up his phone and made a few calls. The setup. The following evening, the four trespassers returned as expected. They'd spent the day hyping up their followers for another secret celebrity pool reveal that would drop at midnight. This time, they'd brought floating lanterns and waterproof LED lights for an even more elaborate production. "I swear the security here is a joke," Jesse laughed as they easily slipped through the same section of shrubbery they'd used before. "No wonder celebrities get robbed all the time." "Maybe the owner's out of town," Mia suggested, already slipping off her cover-up to reveal a metallic bikini that matched her eyeshadow perfectly. Tyler was setting up the camera equipment when he froze. "Guys," he whispered, pointing toward the pool, "the lights are already on." Indeed, the underwater lights were glowing softly, illuminating the pool in a gentle blue hue. More strangely, there were floating candles arranged in a perfect circle in the center of the water. "That's not how it was before," Amber said, her voice suddenly small. "Someone's upped our production value," Jesse said with nervous bravado. "Maybe the house staff is getting into the spirit of things." As they cautiously approached the pool's edge, soft music began to play from hidden speakers. Not threatening, but unexpected enough to make them all jump. "Okay, this is weird," Mia said, clutching her boyfriend's arm. That's when the outdoor lights clicked on, not harshly but with enough suddenness to reveal a figure sitting quietly in a deck chair that had definitely been empty moments before. Keanu Reeves, dressed in simple black jeans and a gray t-shirt, regarded them with calm curiosity. "Beautiful night for a swim," he said, his voice as gentle as if he were greeting invited guests, though usually an invitation is customary. The four stood frozen, caught between fight-or-flight instincts, the mortification of being caught, and the starstruck realization that they were face-to-face with Keanu Reeves himself. "Holy shit," Tyler whispered. "It's actually him." Jesse recovered first, his influencer instincts kicking in. "Mr. Reeves, huge fan. We were just, trespassing," Keanu finished for him, but without a hint of anger. He stood and walked toward them with that distinctive gait that millions had seen on screen. "3 nights this week, if my security system is accurate." Mia looked ready to bolt, but Amber was already backing toward the bushes they'd come through. "We're so sorry, we'll leave right now. Please don't call the police." Keanu held up a hand. "If I wanted the police involved, they'd already be here." He gestured to the pool. "You've gone to so much trouble, it seems a shame to waste the opportunity." The four exchanged confused glances. "What do you mean?" Jesse asked suspiciously. "I mean," Keanu said, "that since you're so interested in my pool, perhaps you'd like to join me and some friends for a proper swim. With permission this time." As if on cue, several more figures emerged from the house. The trespassers' jaws dropped collectively as they recognized Sandra Bullock, Lawrence Fishburne, and several other A-list celebrities walking casually toward the pool area, all dressed for a swim. "We were having a small reunion gathering anyway," Keanu explained, "and I thought, well, these young people seem so determined to use my pool. Perhaps they'd like to be proper guests for once." The lesson begins. What followed was the most surreal 2 hours of the young influencers' lives. Instead of having them arrested, Keanu and his friends invited them to join their small gathering, but with conditions. "No phones," Sandra Bullock said firmly, pointing to a basket that was produced for that purpose. "No social media, no documenting this in any way." "But," Jesse started to protest. "Those are the terms," Keanu said simply. "An experience just for the experience itself. Nothing to prove to anyone else, nothing to show off, just being present in the moment. That's the price of admission tonight." Reluctantly, but with no real leverage to object, the four surrendered their phones. For people who documented their every waking moment, it felt like giving up a limb. With the devices safely stored away, Keanu led them to a seating area where a simple spread of food and drinks had been laid out. Nothing extravagant, cheese, fruit, some bread, and wine, but arranged with thoughtful care. "So," Lawrence Fishburne said, fixing them with that penetrating gaze that had intimidated on-screen villains for decades, "tell us why you've been breaking into Keanu's property." There was no judgment in his tone, just genuine curiosity, which somehow made it impossible to lie or evade. "For content," Jesse admitted after a long pause. "We do this series where we, use celebrity pools without permission and film it for our followers." "And why is that appealing to your audience?" asked Sandra, tilting her head. Mia shrugged uncomfortably. "People like seeing places they're not supposed to see. The forbidden, you know? Plus, it shows we're fearless, willing to take risks for entertainment." "At the expense of others' privacy and property," Keanu observed quietly. The simple statement hung in the air, impossible to refute. "We didn't think about it that way," Amber said eventually, the first crack appearing in their collective justification. "Most people don't," Keanu replied, not unkindly. "That's the trouble with seeing others as content instead of as people." The conversations. As the evening progressed, the initial awkwardness gave way to something unexpected. The celebrities didn't lecture them, exactly, but through casual conversation, profound truths began to emerge. Keanu shared stories of his own struggles with privacy, not with bitterness, but with a kind of resigned acceptance that made the trespassers squirm more than anger would have. "Your home is your sanctuary," he explained, while floating peacefully on his back in the pool, the very one they had violated. "It's the one place where you hope to just be, without performance, without eyes watching. Do you understand how precious that is?" Tyler, who had been the most visibly uncomfortable since their discovery, nodded. "I never thought about it that way. I just saw the likes and shares we could get. Sandra, sitting with her feet dangling in the water, added her perspective. The internet makes people feel entitled to access every part of others' lives, especially those with any kind of public profile. But we're still just people trying to live our lives. But you chose to be famous, Jesse countered, though with less conviction than before. Lawrence Fishburne fixed him with a steady gaze. We chose to act, to create, to share stories. The fame is a side effect, not the purpose. And even if it were, does that justify treating someone's private space as public property? Jesse had no answer for that. As midnight approached, Keanu suggested they all swim together, properly with permission, as welcome guests. The simple joy of floating under the stars, without phones to document it, without an audience to perform for, was a revelation to the young influencers. Just being in the moment, experiencing something without filtering it through the lens of how it would look online. This feels different, Mia admitted as they floated peacefully, like it's more real somehow. Because it is, Keanu said simply. It's just the experience for its own sake, not for show, not for others, just for you to live and remember. The reversal after the swim, as they sat wrapped in plush towels provided by their unexpected hosts, Keanu proposed something that shocked them all. I understand the appeal of what you've been doing, he said. The thrill of accessing the forbidden, of sharing exclusive glimpses with your followers. So I'd like to offer an alternative. The four leaned forward, intrigued. Next week, I'm hosting a charity event for children's cancer research. Usually, it's just a standard red carpet affair, but what if you four helped organize a pool party here instead? Something fun and meaningful. You could document it, share it with your followers, but this time with permission and purpose. Their eyes widened at the opportunity. You'd let us film here? Officially? Jesse asked, incredulous. With some conditions, Keanu clarified. The focus would be on the charity, on doing something good with your platform. You'd help raise awareness, maybe even funds. And in exchange, you'd get the exclusive content you're after, just without the breaking and entering. The offer hung in the air, both generous and challenging. It presented them with a stark choice. Continue treating others' property as fair game for their entertainment, or channel their social media savvy towards something more meaningful. Why would you trust us with this after what we did? Amber asked, giving voice to what they were all wondering. Keanu's answer was simple but profound. Because sometimes people just need to be offered a better path. You have influence, however big or small. What matters is how you use it. The transformation. The charity pool party was a tremendous success. Under Keanu's guidance, the four influencers had transformed from trespassers to organizers, using their understanding of what captivated online audiences to create something genuinely meaningful. Children who had been fighting cancer had the opportunity to swim with celebrities, play pool games, and forget their daily struggles for a few hours. The content the influencers created wasn't about exclusive access or forbidden glimpses. It was about joy, resilience, and using privilege to help others. Their follower counts exploded, not because they'd snuck into another celebrity's space, but because they'd created content with heart and purpose. Donations poured in, far exceeding the fundraising goals. As the event wound down, Keanu found Jesse sitting alone by the pool, looking thoughtful. "Something on your mind?" he asked, taking a seat beside him. Jesse was quiet for a moment. "I've been doing this all wrong," he finally said. "Chasing clout, views, likes, thinking that's what influence means. But this," he gestured to the children laughing and playing, to the genuine connections being formed, "this is actually meaningful." Keanu nodded. "Influence is like any power. It's not inherently good or bad. It's how you use it that matters." "We could have been arrested that night," Jesse said. "Most people would have called the cops without a second thought." "That would have been easier," Keanu acknowledged. "But punishment rarely teaches the lesson you hope it will. It just creates resentment. Sometimes the better path is to show someone a different way forward." The aftermath. In the months that followed, the Midnight Dips series was quietly retired. In its place, Jesse, Mia, Tyler, and Amber launched a new initiative, Permitted Plunges. They partnered with willing celebrities and homeowners to create pool party fundraisers for various causes, transforming their trespassing energy into authorized advocacy. Their first partnership after Keanu, a struggling local community pool that had been at risk of closing due to lack of funds. Their campaign saved the facility, ensuring neighborhood children had a safe place to swim and learn water safety. The final video in their new series featured a return to Keanu's pool, this time with explicit permission. As the camera panned across the now familiar backyard, Jesse's voiceover shared their journey. "We thought breaking into celebrity pools made us cool, fearless content creators," he admitted. "What it actually made us was trespassers who disrespected others' boundaries for our own gain. It took Keanu Reeves not punishing us, but instead showing us a better way, to understand that real influence isn't about exclusive access or breaking rules. It's about creating meaningful connections and using whatever platform you have to make a positive difference." The video concluded with Keanu himself, characteristically modest in a simple black t-shirt, delivering a message directly to camera, his only public comment on the entire situation. "Everyone makes mistakes," he said with that distinctive, gentle intensity. "What matters is what you learn from them and how you grow. These young people could have just been trespassers I caught and reported. Instead, they became partners in creating something beautiful. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do when someone wrongs you is not to seek retribution, but to offer redemption." He gave a small, enigmatic smile. "Also, if you want to swim in someone's pool, just ask nicely. The worst they can say is no." The lesson. As the summer faded into fall, Keanu's pool became the unlikely setting for a regular gathering. Once a month, he hosted what came to be known informally as redemption swims, events where young content creators could learn about ethical approaches to their craft from established figures in entertainment. The four former trespassers became regular fixtures, sharing their own journey from exploitation to purpose as a cautionary tale and roadmap for others. "The thing about social media fame," Mia explained to a group of aspiring influencers at one such gathering, "is that it makes you believe the rules don't apply to you, that anything is justified if it gets views. We had to learn the hard way that real influence comes with responsibility." Though our way of learning wasn't as hard as it could have been, Tyler added with a grateful glance toward Keanu, who was quietly helping a caterer arrange a fruit platter, seemingly uncomfortable with even this indirect acknowledgement of his generosity. For his part, Keanu rarely spoke about the incident that had started it all. When pressed by friends about why he hadn't simply had the trespassers arrested, his answer was always some variation of the same theme. "Everyone deserves a chance to be better than their worst choices," he would say. "Sometimes they just need someone to show them how." The ripple effect. The story eventually made its way into the mainstream media, not through Keanu, who never spoke publicly about it beyond that one video, but through the influencers themselves, who considered sharing their transformation part of their responsibility. What could have been a simple tale of trespassing and consequences became something more meaningful. A case study in restorative justice, in the power of meeting violation not with punishment, but with wisdom and opportunity. Other celebrities began to adopt similar approaches to their own privacy breaches. Punishment and public shaming gave way, in some quarters at least, to more constructive responses. The Keanu method, as it came to be known in certain circles, suggested that perhaps the best way to handle those who crossed boundaries was neither harsh retribution nor passive acceptance, but a third path, transforming transgression into opportunity for growth. For the four who had begun as trespassers, the outcome was beyond anything they could have imagined on that night they scaled Keanu's fence. Their platforms grew not because they had access to exclusive celebrity content, but because they had a genuine story of transformation to share. "We went looking for a viral moment in someone else's pool," Amber reflected in their one-year anniversary video. "Instead, we found purpose in being invited in the front door. Sometimes the thing you're chasing through the wrong means is nothing compared to what you can achieve through the right ones." The real treasure. On the anniversary of their first trespass, Keanu invited the four back for a private dinner. No cameras, no phones, no documentation, just genuine human connection. As they sat beside the pool that had changed the trajectory of their lives, Jesse raised his glass in a toast. To Keanu, he said simply. Who could have made us regret our choices through punishment, but instead made us regret them through kindness? Keanu shook his head, uncomfortable as always with praise. I just offered an alternative, he said. You did the hard work of changing. As the night deepened and conversation flowed, Mia found herself beside Keanu, both of them looking out at the pool that glowed softly in the darkness. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Why didn't you just call the police that night? It would have been justified. Keanu was silent for a long moment, considering her question seriously. I've played a lot of characters who solve problems through violence or force, he finally said. But in real life, I've found that true strength often lies in restraint, in choosing connection over conflict when possible. Not always. Sometimes boundaries must be firmly enforced. But that night, I saw an opportunity rather than just an intrusion. He turned to look at her directly. The greatest regret isn't getting caught or facing consequences. It's realizing that you've been measuring success by the wrong metrics all along. I didn't want you to just regret trespassing. I wanted you to question why you thought it was necessary in the first place. Mia nodded slowly, understanding the profound difference. Well, she said with a smile, mission accomplished. The legacy years later, long after the viral videos had faded from public memory, the legacy of that summer remained. Jesse, Mia, Tyler, and Amber had parlayed their experience into careers focused on ethical content creation. They taught, consulted, and continued to create, but with a fundamentally different approach to influence and access. The community pool they had helped save became their headquarters, a place where they taught underprivileged kids not just swimming, but digital literacy and responsible media creation. And Keanu? He remained Keanu, private, thoughtful, using his considerable influence with the same careful intention he always had. His pool remained a sanctuary, though now occasionally opened for purpose rather than breached for content. The security system was eventually upgraded, not because he feared further trespassing, but because the charity events held there had become valuable enough to protect. Sometimes, when swimming alone in the quiet evening hours, he would remember that night. 4 terrified young faces, illuminated by sudden lights, caught in the act of treating his private space as content. He never regretted his response, though many had questioned it. In a world quick to punish and expose, choosing to transform rather than condemn remained his most quintessentially Keanu act. Unexpected, gentle, and ultimately profound in its impact. They had kept sneaking into his pool until he made sure they regretted it, not through shame or legal consequences, but through the much more powerful regret of realizing how much more they could have been all along. And that, as anyone who truly understood Keanu Reeves might have predicted, was the most perfectly Keanu response imaginable to finding strangers in his pool.